Are you trying to establish your brand as a thought leader? Start a podcast, invite industry experts to be guests on your show, and watch your brand become the prime resource for decision makers in your industry. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show. Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. I'm joined today by Olivier Chanoux. He is the CMO and co-founder over at LumApps. Olivier, welcome to the show. How's it going today?
Oh, I'm fine. Thank you. Very good day.
Awesome. Olivier, we're going to be talking about some specific strategies in building out brand advocates within your company today. As we get into that, I would love for you to share a little context with listeners, background on yourself, and what you and the team at LumApps are up to these days.
Yeah, so as you have seen with my beautiful French accent, I'm a French guy. I'm, as we say, serial entrepreneur. This is my third company, mainly in IT, being part of many companies in IT, like consulting, and now with LumApps on the software market. I'm married, three nice, beautiful daughters, and dedicated to this LumApps company now for 5 or 6 years. Maybe my role is I've got two main missions as a founder. One is to take care about our expansion in Japan and JAPAC region, but it's not the topic of today. And the second one, it's about marketing, and I think it's more up to our conversation today.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you give us a little bit of context, what you and the team at LumApps are up to, who you guys serve, for a little bit of context?
Yes, so we serve mainly internal communication people, marketing and HR. So if I want to try to resume what we're doing, our core mission, it's really to, let's say, empower companies with technology so they are able to enable, in fact, knowledge sharing and to increase productivity. How we do that? We do that with a platform, so that we created. We have many products, but let's say our main product, flagship product, is a social intranet that serves all employee communication within a company. So we try at the end to centralize all work related to, let's say, communication for sure, but also to surface all the business apps that employees need on day-to-day basis. Let's assume maybe you're using Microsoft 365 or you're using G Suite or Slack or other tools. You have in one unique platform this ability to have your communication plus all the business apps you need on a daily basis to work and to do your job. But I think we are going to talk about more social advocacy. So another product for company is really related to social advocacy. This will focus more on what we call employee engagement. So the goal here behind this solution is to give every single employee in the company to have a simple tool in just one click to share every important content, news, update externally. So to give an external vision of what is happening in the company. So at the end, if I want to resume, we do social advocacy, we do intranet, but our mission is to try to turn every employee into a brand advocate of your company. That's what we I've got a French company, I don't mention the name here, but they are doing some glasses, very, very famous French company. They have so many people very proud of the company. So what we give to them and give the opportunity. Now, every employee is communicating on daily basis to their social network, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, whatever they're using, and they are all brand advocates of the company. And that was not before something feasible, before we put in place the project with this French company, for example.
Yeah.
Makes sense? Yeah.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I want to come back to the point you just made about one of your customers making it easy for employees to share content, but we'll come back to that in a few minutes. One of the things that you mentioned there, Olivier, that I just relate to a lot is, consolidating the communication and all of the different apps that we use for communication internally on a daily basis. And, I'm part of a small team of about 25 or so. For larger organizations, I know that it just becomes more and more complicated. So I love that you guys are simplifying that. Let's talk about this idea of brand advocates. You mentioned a customer that's gone through a change recently, and they've been able to use this strategy much more effectively. In your opinion, as you talk to customers and companies, what are some of the big areas where they're missing out an opportunity when it comes to developing brand advocates within their organization?
So let's say we can have many reasons for that. One of my personal trust, it's leadership. I think if leadership isn't leading by example, that can be an issue. So that's a first topic. Meaning by that, it's really important that leaders are involved and show the good road to success on this. I think a second topic after leadership can be content. If you or your company doesn't produce enough good content, that's something that's going to be difficult to build brand advocate, because you don't serve all your employees the good content they need. I think also there is a cultural also. Cultural can be a third topic: leadership, content, cultural. I mean, if you're afraid that your employee may say it's not favorable, if your employee are not engaged as your thought, so that means the culture behind the sharing and brand advocate is not here. That's a third topic. So yeah, content, leadership, culture. I think last one, and it's because you don't have the right tools. Because if you don't provide the good solution platform tools to do that, that can be a big issue for your employees. You have the good content, leadership are showing the good example, but it's going to be an unorganized kind of mess, because there is not a strategy behind. So you need the right tools.
Yeah, Olivier, I love the way that you succinctly wrap those up. We've got leadership's input on building brand advocates, empowering folks with content, the issue of control, and then tools to make it easy. I'd like to ask you a question here on number 3, because this control aspect, the idea that, okay, here are your 5 list of approved tweets, and nothing can be outside of that. I see a lot of companies that want more engagement on their social media channels, and their employees sharing the content is a great way to build that. But at the same time, they want to place so much control over it that they don't enable employees to actually do anything and do anything organically. That balance of control or letting go a little bit to empower folks to share the content that you're empowering them with. How do you see some companies manage that balancing act or this issue of control?
There is so many ways to balance that. So we have so many different experiences. I think when it comes to company, it's not a personal Twitter or LinkedIn where you can do everything. If you're a brand advocate and brand ambassador, that's normal in somehow that there is a little governance. I think that's the right term in English, from the company. That doesn't mean company control everything, but company can suggest, put in place rules, tools, whatever process to provide you on daily basis 1, 2, 3 articles, blog posts, news, and suggest things to post after. If, again, the right content is here, as an employee, I would be more than happy to share that. That doesn't mean that employee cannot take their own action, not guided by the company, but you need a minimum of guideline. If you're big retailers, maybe there is things you don't want to see externally. If you're a big company in pharmaceuticals, there is maybe things to avoid to mention externally. So that's normal that a little governance would take in place. So that's what we try to offer with our solution. It's to give everyone capacity to do things on their own, but also to provide the good content to the good people, very well targeted, so people feel concerned and they want to be brand advocates. So this is our kind of philosophy. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You make a good point about the industry that you're in, understanding, specific content regulations and those sorts of things that are going to apply to certain folks in certain industries, more heavily than others. A question, Olivier, that I asked a previous guest here on the show, Carrie Held from Siegel and Gale. We were talking about something similar recently here on the podcast, and that is the connection between employee engagement and brand advocacy. It seems like folks sometimes want to jump to developing brand advocates and they skip the step of employee engagement. Can you talk a little bit about the connection between the two and how leadership can leverage employee engagement to build brand advocates without skipping that engagement step?
Yeah, I think you're right. The first and the most important part here, it's to take a pulse on engagement. If you don't have engagement, you can have the best tools, you can have whatever you want, it will not work. An employee who is engaged, who, as I said, with this French company, believe in the company, they love the company mission, they would be more likely to promote the brand across social channels or whatever. So if people are here with engagement, this is the main key topics, I think, for me. So after, for sure, if engagement is low, that's something you need to work before launching every kind of social advocacy program or solution tools. It's the end, but engagement is the first topic. In reverse, if engagement is very high, that's the right moment to think about that. And after, the second topic you have to address, it's again content. Leadership content, it's what we mentioned a little bit before, but content that mirror your value, to mirror everything that is your mission and everything, with a very simple way to address that and to execute that for employees. I think this is the key, let's say, drivers or key inputs you would need. So engagement first. If engagement is low, first work on engagement. Engagement is high, work after on content and provide the good and easy solution to put in place. I think this is how I would try to resume your question.
That makes a lot of sense, Olivier. Can you speak a little bit more to, number 2 in the 4 key components you mentioned earlier of brand advocacy, about content, maybe some low-hanging fruit where HR and marketing teams can go to look for, content to feed their brand or employee advocacy programs. Oftentimes they may be thinking, well, we need to create all sorts of new content for this. But you mentioned that there are, some ways that they can repurpose existing content and some places they can go to make content easily shareable. And like you said, not ask people to share stuff, but not give them the content in order to do so.
My true believing, if you look at the market, it's a very fragmented market. Meaning by that, the content in I don't know, knowledge base, on intranet, or somewhere in a tool. And after you have, if you think about user experience, another tool for other content, and you have several tools for several type of content. On top of that, at one time, we are going to provide you another solution that is dedicated to brand advocacy. So it's a very fragmented market in terms of solution. It's a very fragmented user experience because of the multiple tools you may get. Our vision, it's our vision since the beginning. We started, as I said, with intranet. So all the content to be leveraged for employee advocacy, it already exists. You don't have to recreate. It's here. It's someone published something about a new product in your company, about a corporate news, about a blog post that is interesting, and after, again, with little governance, it's here. It's native. You just have to allow external sharing or not. So this is a first thing. So in our vision, you don't need to create content because content is here and is existing. After, it's just to repurpose company news, blog post, industry news, event announcement, and more. And every employee are just one click away. And this is what we want to offer. It's this platform where you have the news, you have the content, you have the knowledge base, everything's centralized. In one click, you're just one click away to push on your LinkedIn account, on your Twitter, or whatever social media you may use. Mm-hmm. So again, this is, I think, really key here, because you don't have to create an extra work, an extra content, unless you have to. It's here, it's existing, and you're just one click away to publish it. So this keep it simple and stupid, the KISS approach, is very strategic for us.
Yeah. Let's go back, Olivier, to something we talked about, kind of the other side of the control. As you've pointed out, there are kind of 4 key components to building your brand advocacy program: leadership's input, content, as we just talked about there, control, and tools. The other side of control, earlier we talked about the fact that a lot of companies need to put up guidelines in this area. And I am of the opinion that sometimes they go a little bit too far, but at the same time, they are trying to push people to share content. And there's a fine line there between empowering people with content that they feel engaged with and they feel proud about sharing, and making it feel like a mandate or making it feel like a burden. What's some common advice that maybe you guys give to your customers, Olivier, on how to strike that balance between empowering folks but not making it feel like a burden to share content through this brand advocacy push?
That's a complex topic. I think, as I mentioned content earlier, that's one for sure. The second big one would be the tools. On my side, we have built an entire multi-million-dollar business around that. So this is a two key believer that I have. It's content, and the second one is tool. After company, as I said, we have too much content, too much data. It's everywhere, too much tool across department, different functions. So that's also something to take care of because of this, as I said, fragmented content data. People are using more than 60 tools. They have content spread everywhere. They have data coming from multi-sources. So I think this is also a kind of an important point.
Yeah, you mentioned, the consolidation, Olivier, earlier, and you talked about, the user experience. And, folks can't see my video, but I was nodding very affirmatively when you said that, because, one of the things I think to make it not feel like a burden is what you mentioned earlier, just making it easier on them, making it not a fragmented, user experience that's full of a lot of friction. If you can remove some of that friction, you're likely going to change the mindset of folks. Even if they like the content, they're comfortable sharing it. If it's tough to do, then they're going to associate it with some negative emotions. But if you make it easier, then you can get the ball rolling sometimes a little bit quicker.
That's right. This is really part of our let's say, mission. It's to connect everyone in a simple way, in fact, as an organization. And this is the main topic of what we try to achieve since a few years with our tools and with our project.
I love it. Olivier, this has been a great conversation. I like that you're advocating for, employee engagement before brand advocacy and making it easier for folks. I like the way that you succinctly, put it into the 4 key components there that we've talked about throughout the conversation here. Olivier, if anyone listening to this would like to stay connected with you, reach out and ask any follow-up questions, or stay connected or learn more about what you and the team at LumApps are up to, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
We have been talking about social advocacy, Twitter, LinkedIn. I think reach me by LinkedIn. You can find me easily, Olivier Chanoux. And if you search, send me an email or whatever. Social media, it's a good way to reach to me, for sure. I would reply every time.
Awesome. We'll make it easier for folks and put your LinkedIn profile right in the show notes so you can click that and send.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Olivier, this has been a great conversation. As I mentioned, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today.
Thank you, Logan. It was a pleasure for me also. Thank you.
Hey everybody, Logan with Sweetfish here. If you're a regular listener of B2B Growth, you know that I'm one of the co-hosts of this show, but you may not know that I also head up the sales team here at Sweetfish. So for those of you in sales or sales ops, I wanted to take a second to share something that's made us insanely more efficient lately. Our team has been using LeadIQ for the past few months, and what used to take us 4 hours gathering contact data now takes us only 1. We're 75% more efficient, we're able to move faster with outbound prospecting, and organizing our campaigns is so much easier than before. I'd highly suggest you guys check out LeadIQ as well. You can check them out at leadiq.com. That's LeadIQ.com.